Yeah. I'll call the committee to order. Senator Lang will be right along.
Move to go into exec.
We'll have a motion to go into executive session. We have a second. All those in favor of going into executive session, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. First order of business we want to take up. Senator Carson, do you want to introduce the amendment and the two changes to House Bill 1?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, before we get started, I'd like to thank all the people who came to the public hearing that happened on this past Tuesday. It's very important that we hear from the people of the state of New Hampshire as we're going through this budget process. And I want the people of the state of New Hampshire to know that we heard what you said, and you've identified things that are important to you that you feel need to be in the budget. So, Mr. Chairman, I have amendment number 2025-2010S to present to the committee. And what this does is it amends House Bill 1, I believe House Bill 2, by deleting section 443 relative to the Medicaid provider rate reduction. And it directs the Department of Health and Human Services to reduce, this is what's being deleted, to reduce Medicaid provider rates and to use the resulting savings. We are deleting that section. So that means that the Medicaid provider rates will stay as they currently are.
And if you'd go on to talk about the other two amendments to House Bill 1? If,
I only have that one, Mr. Chairman.
oh, yeah, but see, all right, then I will do it.
Okay, you do
The
that.
second and the third, the second one is to restore funding to the developmental disabilities wait list. And the third item is to restore funding to the community mental health program support. All right, those are, first one is a House Bill 2. The second are House Bill 1s. For those committee members that aren't used to it, when we have the House Bill 1, you get the numbers. We need to take a vote on it so they know what to put into the budget, and then we will do that. And so when you get a House Bill 1, they do look different than a regular amendment, but it's because it's the numbers, and we need to change the numbers and not necessarily the language.
Do you need a motion?
We'll take a motion.
Move to approve.
We'll move to approve all three. We will take separate votes, but we have a second. Okay. All right. So let's go back, and we're going to start with the actual amendment to House Bill 2. Is there any further discussion? Senator Waters.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to commend you and the Senate President and Governor Ayotte for this result for the Senate. I think this says a lot about this committee and about the Senate as a whole, how we listen to people and are ready to do what needs to be done to ease some of their fears and make sure people get the care that they need. I remember one of the people on Monday night who said, you know, Medicare is not a program, it's a lifeline. And I think we're restoring that lifeline, and I'm very pleased we'll be able to kick off our deliberation on the budget with this very strong statement from the Senate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Additional comments from the senators? Senator Pearl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to echo the sentiments of my colleague. I mean, it was very clear the other night that this is an extremely important program to our citizens, and I think it's, we're going to have many tough decisions in this budget, but I think this is probably one of the easiest ones. This clearly needs to be returned, and those rates need to stay where they are. So I hope we'll all support that.
And as I've told other people, we will be taking many, many, many votes as we move things in and out of both House Bill 1 and House Bill 2. It is a statement of our intent that these be the first three votes that we take. Okay, so all ready for the question? All those in favor of Amendment 2025S, say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And 2010 S. Okay. All right. Now we're moving on to the second sheet that you have. and that's to restore the funding to the developmental disabilities wait list. Discussion?
Thank you.
Senator Rosenbaum.
Thank you. I was in the House when we ended the DD waitlist in 2007. And what a joyous, important moment that was. That was a long time coming, from the closure of the Laconia School to the ending of the wait list. So I think this is a really important amendment, and I thank you for bringing it.
Thank you, Senator. Further comments?
Thank
Senator
you.
Carson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also echo Senator Rosenwald's comments. I was also in the House when we ended the DD wait list, and it was a good day when that happened. We've taken individuals that were quite frankly marginalized for very long, and they've become active, contributing members of our society, and that's what we want. That's really what we want. As the parent of a disabled adult, I know how difficult it can be for disabled individuals to navigate our world. And this helps them, and it's important for not only them, but for their families. So I'm very happy to hear that we're going to go ahead and restore this. I think the Senate, again, is making a statement that this is a very important priority for us, and that's why we're leading with this. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further comments by the senators? Seeing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Moving on to the third item, restoring funding to the community mental health program support. Comments from Senator Birdsell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have to say, we've done so much in the state of New Hampshire for the community mental health. And I was new at HHS last biennium, and I learned an awful lot. And I think it's very important that we need to continue putting the funding forward for our the mental health programs that we have worked so hard to put into place. So I'm just glad to see this is coming back, and thank you.
Senator Lang. Oh, any other comments? Seeing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. We're going to go on to more mundane things. We have some bills that are in the committee that we need to exec out, and then we'll go from there back into budget stuff. So thank you very much. And we do thank the press, for coming today, and certainly we want to get the message out to the people that we have listened to them, and we are taking action on their requests. All right. I've got the list of bills that we still have to do. Why don't we start with the second committee bills first? 282, increase the maximum benefit for the first responders, critical injured in the line of duty. And if the senators need a little bit of time, since we will be meeting several times, we can certainly do that. This had an expenditure between 0 and 500,000. This would normally be a pass and table the way we've done it this year. But we're into the budget phase right now, so you may want to do it differently. OTPs, Senator Pearl, Senator Rosenwald, and the committee, are you thinking that this is going to be a pass and table, or do you think this is going to be a straight pass? Because you're making a decision of $500,000. I would suggest that you do a pass and table and then consider it in the rest of our budget resolutions.
I agree.
I also agree.
Okay, so it's pass and table, all right. Is there any other comments on the ought to pass motion? All those in favor of ought to pass, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. And I don't know if there's anybody in particular that wants to take it out. Senator Pearl? All 8 of us here today. Okay. Going on to House Bill 653. This is establishing a pilot program within the Department of Education to implement alternative restraints, etc. This one here again has an expenditure between $100,000 and $500,000 per year. So $1 million over the biennium. Yes, ma'am.
Is this going to be an ought to pass and table as well?
Again, that would be my suggestion to you.
Yes.
But
Okay.
I'm only one on the committee, so. All
Mr.
right.
Chair, I'll move ought to pass.
Second.
We have an ought to pass from Senator Lang, seconded by Senator Birdsell. Okay? And again, I haven't heard any objection to the pass and table motion. Okay? All right, our philosophy, let's put it that way. All right. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of ought to pass, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. And I don't know if any of you guys are on this one.
I'll take it.
Senator Birdsell, okay. $658, House Bill 658.
Mr. Chair, I'll move ought to pass. Second.
I have an ought to
I could
pass.
speak for just a moment.
Senator Pearl, seconded by Senator Lang. And just let me go and, this one,
Yeah, I'd be happy to speak to this, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. you'll be at right after Senator Pearl. I just wanted to go back because on the other ones, I have at least gone to the fiscal note and given them an indication. And this one says that there will be revenue of $500,000 in the first year, $350,000 the next year, but there is expenditures in the years after that. And so,
Well, essentially, Mr. Chair, what this bill is doing is just reallocating funds within the oil distribution fund. And I'm not certain that this one should be a table. I think this should just be a straight pass and send it through.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, serving on that board as well, this is the result of a long process that every few years we have to look at the ratio and the relationship among the funds and where the costs are. And we've tried very hard in this to make sure that it had the least impact on consumers. And the formula that's worked out is rather carefully done. I also hope that we can pass this right through. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Birdsell.
Can I just, since I used to be on the oil fund as well, this is not coming out of the general funds, it's coming out, so there, I don't think there is any, right, there's no reason why we should have to table it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Motion is ought to pass. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it.
Consent?
And
Second.
I have a motion for consent. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Senator Pearl, you get it. And that one is going to schedule to be a straight pass for right now. 667, relative to health education. And going back to the fiscal note. If I can find the fiscal note. Revenues and determinant expenditures, talks about varying expenditures. Anybody want to speak on this one? Senator Waters?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, we had some discussion in the Senate floor about this policy and so forth. I think what particularly troubles me is the inclusion of the community college system, university system. It's very rare for us to direct curriculum inclusion at the university system and the college system, whatever the subject may be. And given the potential impacts overall on the budgets of the university system and community college system, though doesn't seem like a lot of money, I just don't know whether it's appropriate. And I think particularly how it is that it could be ensured that in which courses, by which professors, and which curriculum, and whether students would have to attend. Senator Innes, can you guarantee attendance in your classes? I used to be pretty. I was a hard nose on that. But anyways, I really would think that if this needs to go forward, at least we could delete the exempt the community college system and the university system in New Hampshire.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Senator Ennis?
I'm going to agree with my colleague from Barrington on this one. I think this is an overreach by the state into an academic situation where we really shouldn't ought to play. Curriculum is determined by the faculty in consultation with one another with the best interests of the students in mind, and I trust our institutions, both the community college level and the university system level, to make the best choices for their students and their programs. So I am not in favor of this as written.
Senator Carson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would concur with my two colleagues that have spoken. What I find specifically troubling is that if they don't do this, that they're going to withhold their degree. I mean, we want students to graduate, to go out into the world and start working. We need workers. And to withhold someone's degree that they have worked hard for, invested their financial future into, just because they didn't watch a video, I think that's way too far. I think that's asking too much. So if there's a way, Mr. Chairman, if we could have a committee amendment proposed to remove the requirements that the community college system as well as the University of New Hampshire removed from this, I could definitely support that.
University system.
Yes, the university system.
Okay, I'll put this on hold till next Tuesday, and hopefully we can craft the amendment by that time.
Okay.
Oh, I've got LBA that's gonna
Is the
tell me
committee
what I
work-
can do or what I
Sorry.
can't.
Is the committee working from House Bill 667 as amended by the Senate, amendment number 1737S?
I am, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so you'll see that, no?
I think so.
1737, that's in our book.
Yes.
So I believe this bill as amended applies just to public schools, public district schools. But we can look into that.
Yeah, because we have everything
But yeah,
here,
so,
so.
yep. Oh, and do you have the revised fiscal note issued on the 5th?
No.
Okay,
No.
so we'll make sure the committee has that. I think that'll help the discussion for next time.
So this one's on hold until Tuesday. $763?
A second.
Okay, Senator Rosenwald moves on pass, Senator Waters seconds.
I'd like to move an amendment.
Well, just
If I
before you,
could.
before you get there,
Yep,
want to do the same things I did with the other ones.
you're gonna like my amendment.
And expenditures on this one are $80,000 in each of the 2 years. Go for it.
So I'd like to propose amendment 2025S,
And it is in your books.
which strips out $160,000, the entire appropriation, creates the fund, and puts $1 of general funds in. So basically, it creates the fund. These AEDs have been essentially funded by private donations, and that's what the bill contemplates, grants and gifts. but just $1 of general funds to get the fund established. It's non-lapsing, so that dollar will carry on into all of eternity. I worked on this amendment with Senator Prentice. She's been talking to the prime sponsor, Representative Dry, who is in her district, and they are okay with not funding it, but just creating the fund.
Senator Rosenwald moves Amendment 2025S. Do I have a second?
Second.
Senator Lang seconds. Further discussion on the Amendment 2025S? Seeing none. All those in favor of Amendment 2025S, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. And now we have the bill as amended.
Consent?
We have to vote on the bill first.
All right, further discussion on the bill as amended. I know, I get ahead of my skis all the time, too. All right, so right now, we're seeing if there's any further discussion on the bill as amended. Seeing none. All those in favor of the bill as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. And now Senator Birdsell moves consent.
Second.
Okay. And Senator Rosenwald seconds. All those in favor of consent, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. It's there, and Senator Rosenwald, you made the motion, you get the bill.
Okay.
And that is also just a straight pass. All right, these other ones may be harder, so let's go back to 650. $650 removes reference to repeal funds relative to state park and robotics education. The note on this is indeterminate. When you look down through, it talks about $1 million general fund biennium for any unencumbered funds to exceed. All right, so that's where we stand. Comments, questions on 650? Or do you want more time on this one?
Senator Gray,
Yes, ma'am.
when Commissioner Edelblut came to talk about his budget request, he also talked about this bill. And if you would look on page 1, on line 19, he requested a one-word amendment. Instead of saying the unencumbered balance, they were requesting to say the unobligated balance. So I wanted to bring that to your attention before.
Okay, we will consider that if I get a motion,
Yep,
unobligated.
unobligated, please.
Further discussion? Hold it till Tuesday.
Great.
And if LBA isn't doing anything else, they can write that in. It's gonna have to get written sooner or later anyway. 739. $739 relative to excess funds paid to municipalities for use in school districts. The financial note here talks about 28.6 million per year beginning in 27. Also 300,000 there, and then down below. All right.
Mr. Chair,
Discussion.
I move ITL.
Second.
We have a motion for ITL. And that was Senator Lang, Senator Birdsell. Discussion?
I just say that we're in the middle of an existing lawsuit. We should let that play out to help us figure out where the legislature needs to move to, and that to act now is premature.
Further discussion? Okay, the motion is inexpedient to legislate. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And do I have a motion for consent?
Move consent, second.
Senator Bertzel, Senator Lang, consent. All those in favor of consent say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it.
I'll take it out, Mr. Chair.
And Senator Lang, you get to take it out. All right. Down to two, Deb. Down to two. Have I got any others hanging out there in the weeds that I don't know about?
We have two that we took in yesterday.
Okay. We've got to, and those will be on the list for the next meeting.
Two orphans.
Well, you know, you have to speak to that chair of finance. He apparently said he had to have them before they went all the way through, so we'll have to speak to him. All right. Come on up. We're back to regular budget things. I do want to have you guys were all given a list of bills that we had that were also contained in the budget. And it would be my proposal that any bill that is duplicated in House Bill 2 that we have the real bill on, that we delete them from House Bill 2. Discussion.
Just to clarify, if we've already disposed of a bill, are you including that and delete it from House Bill 2?
If we have or have had,
Oh, okay.
okay, if that helps to clarify it,
So-
then the Senate position is whatever disposition we took on that bill, okay? And the Senate position going forward will be whatever we take on that one. And so, some people are concerned that, you know, about what would happen in a committee of conference if the House does not concur, but request a committee of conference on the budget. Those bills would still be part of the House, and since we can only pick things that are in the House bill and in the Senate bill, there's no reason for them to have to be in both. The Senate is taking their position based on the committee recommendations of those bills, and to me, that's enough to have them stand that way.
Well, that will make House Bill 2 smaller.
Yes, it will. A little, but not small enough. Senator Waters, you were next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't know we were going to go through these or deal with this today, but I have a couple of thoughts about process. There are some bills that we may have a bill, but it might be advantageous to work with the version that is in HB2, and I'm thinking about the landfill items. We have part of that in a bill, but not the rest of it, because the rest of it is in the budget, because they retained the bill in the House, and also the governor put in her version of HB2 some of that language. There are a couple of other places where there are, you know, I'm maybe in the fishing game, but certainly in some of the energy ones, where the changes that are going to be made are ones that ought to be made in HB2, because there's way some funds are being parsed out, and there's also kind of a commingling where one bill on the same subject might be in the budget and another was retained in the House. So the question, see, it becomes a little complicated.
The bills that you're inquiring about, again, if they have come out of a Senate committee, then you certainly can, you know, ask to have them retained in the House bill.
Okay.
Okay? Again, I'm only one vote out of 8, so, you know, but if the bill is still in our committee, I want our committee, the policy committee, to be the one that talks about it, because if it's still in the policy committee, and we're approaching the 15th very rapidly here, then it should not have a financial impact in that bill. So again, that is, we'll delay this conversation. We'll bring the list. Next meeting is on Monday or Tuesday? So we're having a meeting on Monday also. So I'll ask that list be brought in. And again, this first part that we're talking about now are the bills that we actually have in our policy committee or have had in the policy committee to take action that are also in House Bill 2.
So, Mr. Chairman, would it be possible for us then to take this up again on Monday rather than?
That's what we're gonna do for those.
Because I'm,
Yeah.
there's a lot of moving parts. I put in some amendments, others have to pull individual ones out. And if you want to have a kind of global decision.
Monday, I'm gonna
Monday, I
go,
think
I'm
we'll be
gonna
ready.
go ask you for which ones that
Okay.
somebody wants to
Good.
pull off of that list.
Yeah, thank you.
But everything that remains on that list afterward, there's gonna be a motion made to remove them from House Bill 2. Okay? Is that clear?
Yep.
So there was somewhere we had a conversation about with the clerk of the House about bills that can or cannot be left or added to the budget based on whether a committee retained it or where we stand on that. Because I'm sitting there looking here and it says a House bill, but the House didn't pass it. The House retained their own bill. That means that automatically come out according to the clerk's rules?
Apparently, I thought that was gonna be a problem, and our Senate Budget Assistant has informed me that all those bills were voted out of their policy committees with an ought to pass motion, and that they were retained in finance and not, so they should be, just like our rules say, if we have a Senate position, it can be added to anything. I imagine their position is the same, but again, I don't need to deal with them in two places, okay? All right, so that's a heads up on that. Second list is the bills that they did retain, okay? And that's a separate second list, okay? And we will make sure that that is clear, in the stuff that you get. In fact, I think it is clear in the stuff that you've already gotten, which those bills are, all right? In the list that they're combined in, the ones say retained, that's the ones that the House did not send over to the Senate. They have not gotten a Senate hearing other than the budget hearing, and the likelihood of anybody pulling out one of those and saying, well, gee, I gotta go testify on that. It just did not happen, as you know. The House in the past has said, when we sent over changes, they have said, I'm not taking this bill up because we didn't, when we modify a House bill and send it back to them, they have said in the past that I didn't get to have a hearing on this, so we're gonna just kill it, okay? Take that as you will, but we need to look at those bills and make a decision whether they stay in House Bill 2 or not, or if it's something that will not have a significant impact if taken up the second year of the biennium instead of the first. My recommendation would be also to kill those bills, to take them out of House Bill 2. Again, that's only my thoughts, but I hope that I can persuade at least a few of you to go along with me. That's another Monday item.
Mr. Chair, just to let you know, I'm not going to be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
You're not going to be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so.
I'm out of state traveling.
All right. Your input should be provided before you go.
I will.
Probably, directly to one of the other senators on the committee so that they can at least reference your wants.
Thank you.
Okay? Any additional comments on any of that? Senator?
Thank you. So this is just the House passed index, not the Senate bills with the Senate.
That's what Mr. Kane is there. He's going to tell you all about it.
So this is a combination. The sheet you have in front of you is the House passed index, so House Bill 2 as it came over. And what we did is we added two columns really on the left and the right. If there was any similar bills or any bills in the House or Senate. And so in the first column, when you see the HB/SB, that's going to indicate the kind of the first indication of, if you go down to section 12, for instance, Senate Bill 110. And if you move across that page, you can see that that's in House Ways and Means, meaning that the Senate has passed it. If we go down further, you'll see on section 16, there's two bills addressing that policy. You have House Bill 781, which has passed and is currently sitting in Senate Education. That's a bill that you're going to want to look at to see if you want to continue to keep that in House Bill 2 or to address it a different way. You also have Senate Bill 206, which was the Senate's version that passed over. So as you're looking at this sheet, focus on the left-hand column on kind of what bills are there, and we can walk you through kind of the differences in those. Some of these there might be some Senate bills or House bills that were killed or that have been passed both bodies, have been enrolled. And so in those instances, like if I were to go to, there's an enrolled one I just want to take you to real quick, for instance, would be an easy one to remove from House Bill 2. There's a lot of sections, but if you go to page 7 of 11, for instance, and you look on section 301 down there at the bottom of the page, and you'll see House Bill 517. So there was actually a bill that passed both the House and the Senate relative to the repeal, outreach, and marketing of granted state paid family leave. That's something that you can remove. Since it's already passed, it's already on its way to the governor's desk. That's an example of one that you can just remove from House Bill 2 if you would like, unless you wanted to, for some reason, change that.
And one of the reasons to remove it is that if there are any differences in that language, that creates a problem downstream. So.
And then, so there's just things like that. You'll see a couple, I can walk through this whole list if you want really, really quick. Okay, let me do that because there's a lot of different types of examples. Sorry about that. So back on page 1, we have, I'm going to start with the left-hand column, Senate Bill 110. That's section 12 relative to terrain alteration. My guess is with that bill, and Senate Bill 110 has passed the Senate. It's in the House Ways and Means Committee. Not knowing what the House is going to do on that, that's probably something you're going to maintain in House Bill 2, possibly as you're discussing terrain alteration when DES comes in. I'll leave that up to all of you. House Bill 781/206, that has to do with the cell phone use policy. So you have a bill that has passed the House and it's currently in Senate Education. So, and you also have Senate Bill 206, which the Senate passed, and it's in ed policy. So you have two dueling bills relative to cell phone use, which has passed. Those bills are still kind of up in the air, not knowing which body's going to change. So that's one where you probably don't want to pull it right out of House Bill 2 right away. But again, I leave all these decisions to you. The next one is House Bill 215, which relates to sections 17 and 18. This is a bill where the House has decided to retain it in Finance Committee, but put it in House Bill 2. So that's appropriate for it to retain and maintain in House Bill 2 and have that discussion as you get to Solid Waste Evaluation Committee. House Bill 1, the next is...
I think we have a question.
Absolutely, sure.
So on 215, House Bill, you said it was retained, and they put it, was it retained in Policy Committee or Finance?
Finance.
Thank you.
Finance. And that's it's an exercise Finance has done in the past. They'll do both. Sometimes they'll pass both the bill and the policy, put it into House Bill 2. But in the past, a lot of what House Finance will do, it's similar to Senate Finance, which are tabling motions, is House Finance will bring the bill in, look at it, and then retain it in committee so they don't pass a separate bill, and then make that decision to include it in House Bill 2. So, but this one has passed the House, and it is appropriate to have in House Bill 2.
Give me one second. Can I take off on that?
Going?
So is it were these the bills you sent to the chairs to look at to see whether or not, because I'd want input on this topic from our policy chair, the
If
Senate,
it is
because
a
it
House
didn't.
bill that they have not sent over, that was on the list that Mr. Grant sent to you.
Okay.
Yes, I should say Grant.
House Bill 115/295, that's Section 19. This is the education freedom accounts. Both the House and Senate have passed bills over. Those bills are still alive in both bodies, and it's also in House Bill 2. I leave that up to the committee how they want to deal with that. On page 2 of 11, Senate Bill 83 at the top of the page. This is probably something that's going to stay. We'll pay attention to it, but that's a bill relative to video lottery terminals. It's in the House Ways and Means Committee, so it has passed the Senate, but it's currently being debated in House Ways and Means. That's something you probably want to keep in House Bill 2 for now, as you're discussing it in your committee until we know what the House is going to do on that end. The next is House Bill 268. This is actually 70A. This is a Board of Tax and Land Appeals Offices and Hearings. That's a bill that has actually passed the House and passed the Senate. It's probably on its way to enrolling. There are going to be other changes you're going to be discussing in Board of Tax and Land Appeals. And what we can do is we can just ensure that if this can stand alone on its own, it doesn't need to be in House Bill 2, that can be removed. But if it's something that can be amended in House Bill 2, you want to keep that as well. So. Going to page 3, Senate Bill 119 in the middle of the page, and that has to do with drug prescriptions at HHS. And so that has passed the Senate. It would reduce state expenditures by about 1.1 million in 26, 3.4 in 27. It is contained in House Bill 2. So depending on what happens in the House policy, it's probably one you want to keep in House Bill 2 for now. Until the House Policy Committee acts. It's also something that we can discuss when you get to HHS. Are there any savings we can pick up on the surplus statement to account for that policy? Next, oh, sure.
Senator?
Thank you. Are the savings from that bill not contained in the House version of the budget?
They are in the House version, according to Kevin. Are they in
Okay.
1 or 2?
It's
So the House did make
2.5
those
million.
changes in House Bill 1. So when you get into the budget, those savings are common, and we'll make sure we point that out to you.
Oh, okay.
So in the event that you were to remove that section, we'll make sure that the corresponding change would be made in House Bill 1.
And because the House was proposing an amendment to this on a different subject, this may be one, if you are opposed to what the House did in that you would want to retain the language in House Bill 2, because I don't believe it has that same language.
Okay. The next page is page 5 of 11. If you go probably a third of the way down, Senate Bill 240, which is section 156. So it's related and not related. So it does have to do with, so there was an appropriation passed in 2023, which appropriated funds in 26 and 27 of $15 million a year for state water grants. It never took effect because it won't take effect until 26, but the governor had recommended to repeal that before it took effect, and also the House. And that way they didn't have to pick up another $15 million on either of their surplus statements. Since you have a bill that you have passed, you've tabled, but you've passed out of the Senate committees, you're going to have a long discussion on state water grants and how to appropriately fund that. So this particular section, repealing that appropriation, I would say it's still appropriate to consider in House Bill 2 because it is a savings, an unused appropriation of $15 million a year that's already included in the House and Senate budget. But you can make a separate decision other than this repeal on how you want to fund state water grants. So it doesn't tie your hands in either House Bill 1 or 2. Next one is House Bill 105. This has to do with the New Hampshire Lakes number plates, the Love New Hampshire Lakes number plates. This has been re-referred in Senate Transportation. So here's it's included in House Bill 2. It's also included in House Bill 105 that has passed over. Senate Transportation has re-referred it to the committee. And so that's one where you can either make a decision one way or another to take it in or out of House Bill 2 when you get to that. So, and page 6 of 11. That's House Bill 224, that's relative to sections 187 and 188. This is a bill that had passed the policy committee and it's been retained by the House Finance Committee, but that has to do with the electric renewable portfolio standards and the Renewable Energy Fund. That's something that you're going to be discussing when you get to the Department of Energy in your budget deliberations. So for now, it's probably something you're going to make a decision later whether or not to include that. House Bill 707 is Section 224. That has to do with waste management rules. That has been re-referred, past the House, been re-referred to Senate Energy, so I leave it up to Senate Energy to make, or Senate Finance to make that decision whether or not to include that policy in House Bill 2. Next one is House Bill 707 and Senate Bill 227. Similar topics, not exact language. This has to do with groundwater protection, permit denial, and rulemaking. The Senate Energy has re-referred the House version of this in House Bill 707. Senate had passed this and then tabled it. So that's something you're going to want to consider during your discussions with DES relative to those budget deliberations in House Bill 2. Because other than that, that policy is not alive. House Bill 219, this is another bill that has passed the House Policy Committee relative to electric renewable energy classes, been retained by the House Finance Committee. So that's something that does not have a corresponding bill anymore. That's alive in the process. They leave it up to Senate Finance to make that decision on where you'd like to go. If we go to page 711, that continues on that same renewable portfolio standard you're going to have when Department of Energy comes in. That goes down through the first top of the page until we get to House Bill 504, which is a New Hampshire energy policy. That's actually in Senate Energy. It may have already passed yesterday. It's an ought to pass. It could be an ought to pass motion for the 15th. But that is a policy where you have House Bill 504 has passed the Senate. It's a bill that Senate Energy has recommended passage. So if that bill continues on, that's something you wouldn't need in both places. But again, that's depending on a final decision by this committee. House Bill 607, that's Section 252 of House Bill 2 relative to the powers and duties of the Hampton Beach Commission. That was another bill that had passed into Senate Finance, been retained, and then House Finance, retained by House Finance and put into House Bill 2 for the Hampton Beach Commission. House Bill 517, briefly mentioned that. Here's a bill that it's in Section 301 relative to the paid family leave which has already been enrolled in both the House and the Senate. So this section most likely is not necessary in House Bill 2, unless you want to change something with the bills that are going to the governor's desk, which is always an option. House Bill 60 is Section 307 and 308 relative to the termination of tenancy. This is actually a bill that's in the Senate Commerce Committee right now. So depending on the decisions of that committee and how this committee feels of whether or not to let that bill go on its own as House Bill 60 or to be rolled into House Bill 2. House Bill 54, that's sections 309 through 316. That's another bill that had passed the House Policy Committee, retained in House Finance, and then put into House Bill 2. So that's the only place that is right now is in House Bill 2, and you'll have that discussion when you get to HHS. The next one relative to Partners in Housing Program, that's House Bill 572, Senate Bill 279. Either body, retained in the House and put into House Bill 2. In the Senate bill, Senate 279, the Senate had passed and tabled that bill. So that's probably something the bill does not exist, either 572 or 279. So any decisions you make in that Partners in Housing, you want to make in House Bill 2. House Bill 611, relative to sections 324 and 328, is relative to adequate representation for indigent defendants in criminal cases. That is a bill that actually the House House Finance retained and put that into the budget. So that does have a cost of about $626 a year. That's something that when you get to Judicial Council, you're going to have that same debate in House Bill 2. So that's appropriate to keep that in there. On page 8, House Bill 133, this has to do with residency in the state. Those were two bills that retained, and I'm going to check on the status on where they retained, if they were retained in the Policy Committee or if they were retained in the Finance Committee. So I will get back to you on that one, on House Bill 133.
Karen, do you have that list with you?
Okay, thank you.
Sure, and I can actually just look it up. Okay, retained in House Finance. So here's another bill, they decided to retain it in House Finance, put it into House Bill 2. House Bill 649 is a bill, it's in relative to sections 352, 362. Here's an instance where the House passed the bill over as well as included in House Bill 2 relative to the repeal of motor vehicle inspections. That bill is currently sitting in Senate Commerce. So that's something you're going to want to, you're going to make a decision in either Senate Commerce or Finance on what to do. Next item is House Bill 773 and Senate Bill 292. There's House Bill 773 was retained in House Finance. That has to do with special education and the proration issue, to change that so that in the event that the funds aren't available, that the House position, they have it in House Bill 2, is to allow that to be an open warrant up to about 80%. Senate Bill 292 is currently in House Ed funding right now. Not sure the status of that, if that will pass. But if that passes on its own and the Senate's comfortable with the language in Senate Bill 292 as the House, if they decide to amend it, that's something you could remove out of House Bill 2. We could also, but there is a financial impact we would maintain and monitor in here. On page 9, at the top, House Bill 547. This has to do with county limitation on payments to the county cap and nursing services. So that was relative to Section 385. That's a bill that House Finance retained, took care of in House Bill 2. It's also appropriate for Senate Finance to discuss that in House Bill 2 when you get to HHS. House Bill, sure.
Senator Brosnan.
Thank you. Does that section also include the extra $22 million? Or is that a separate section?
Is that a separate section with the county cap, or they do give them the credit? Yeah.
So this is the credit only, and this is the one that would be 22.5 million, but spread over a 4-year period. So in this budget cycle, it would be $11.25 million.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not about whether the cap goes up 2% or 3%?
Correct. That's a separate section.
Thank you.
House Bill 94, that's relative to Section 386 and 387. That's a House bill that passed over here to the Senate. The Senate has killed that bill. So I would think to be consistent with the Senate position on that bill, you'd want to take it out of House Bill 2. But if not, just let us know. House Bill 223 is sections 394 to 395. That has to do with residential care and health facility licensing. That's also is a House bill that has passed. They passed the bill, put it in House Bill 2, but Senate HHS has a recommendation to ITL that bill. So depending on the outcome of that in the full Senate, it's probably another one you want to consider to reflect the will of the Senate by removing that as well. House Bill 73, that's relative to Section 396 through 403, relative to the Governor's Commission on Alcohol and Drug Abuse Prevention. That bill has passed. It's been enrolled. I think you want to keep this section in because you're going to have a lot of discussions. I think Senator Lang's going to have discussions relative to addiction, opioid addiction, Governor's Commission, and that whole use. So it's something you're going to have in HHS. So I would hold off on that one. Also, depending on what you do on VLTs, is also a portion that flows into these funds. So I would keep that, even though I would keep that one alive for now. That's sections 396 to 403.
Senator Waters.
I'm not sure that those other conversations actually have any impact on the substance of 73, but we can
Okay.
wait and see.
Absolutely.
But I think wait on the governor's signature perhaps, but as I said, I don't think that those other funding discussions actually affect the policy in there.
Okay.
But we could have time to discuss that.
And if it is standalone, then we
Yeah.
could let that bill go, remove those provisions that are
Yeah.
duplicate, and then move on. Okay. House Bill 117 is relative to pharmacists and pharmacies. This is a bill that the House has passed and sent over Section House Bill 2 that's currently sitting in Senate HHS. It does have a surplus statement savings of $2.5 million in 27. Senate Bill 34 is relative to Medicaid to Schools program, and that has passed the Senate. It's currently sitting in education policy, but it has not received a final vote. So it's something you're going to want to keep in House Bill 2.
Senator Rosenthal.
Back to the biologic substitutions. If we were to take the policy out of House Bill 2, would we have to take the savings out of House Bill 1?
It's a surplus statement adjustment, not necessarily. But if you pull the policy out, I think you would talk to. Now, I'll just ask Kevin: is this relative to the state Medicaid program or prescription drugs?
It's a combination of the Medicaid program and other agencies like corrections that have drug spending.
Yeah.
So in House Finance, there was some loose discussion about whether this policy would be related to the $2.5 million savings, whether it was related to PDAB, et cetera. So I think the committee would have to talk about whether you felt comfortable keeping this savings in or not if you were to take the policy out.
You could possibly maintain the savings and not have the policy, but that's something we can look into as you're discussing those. So Senate Bill 34 is Medicaid schools. That's something that the Senate has passed. We'll monitor that. On page 10 of 11 at the top, House Bill 741, that has to do with open enrollment of schools, and I did not update that status, but I'll look right now.
Where is that?
So that's at the top of the page, on page 10 of 11, has to do with sections 427 through 36. It's been re-referred in the Senate, so probably I'll leave it up to you, but most likely you can remove that if you would like.
Senate re-referred?
Yes, Senate re-referred that. Next one is House Bill 148. This has to do with the State Commission on Human Rights, purpose and scope. That's House Bill 148 that's currently sitting in Senate Judiciary. You're going to have a lot of discussions on human rights and as they come before the committee, as those decisions are made. So you probably want to keep that in here for now until you make decisions on that end. Next item is House Bill 548, which is actually a few sections. That is related to sections 455 through 460. Those are all policies that have been indeterminate impacts, so nothing that we're going to remove from the surplus statement, but all ITL, a recommendation of ITL. So those are possibly ones that the Senate, to be consistent with their actions on that bill, could remove. House Bill 274 snuck in there on sections 461 through 462, has to do with elections checklist. Again, that's one that Senate election recommended ITL, so to be consistent, that's one you could recommend to remove from House Bill 2 as well. House Bill 340 is relative to sections 463 and 464, electioneering by public employees. That's currently in Senate election law, so we'll pay attention to that status as you start to get to those sections. The next one is House Bill 230. That's section 465, has to do with local adoption of public health ordinances, and that's something that the Senate has passed. So not necessarily something, depending on what the House does, if the House, I have to see if it was amended or not. Or
I don't believe it was.
okay, so that's something you may not need in House Bill 2 as well, if it's going to go onto the governor's desk. The next two, House Bill 357, that's for sections 466 and 467. Those are both ITL'd by the Senate, probably something that you would consider removing on House Bill 2 to be consistent with the Senate position on that policy. House Bill 381, relative to sections 468 and 469, firearms and accessories. That's one that Senate Judiciary is recommended and ought to pass as amended, so it's still alive and fluctuating, probably something you're going to leave it up to you whether to let that policy go on its own or to keep it in House Bill 2 as well. House Bill 207, sections 470 through 472. It's also Senate Judiciary had killed that relative to the prohibition against carrying and selling weapons. So to be consistent, it might be one you remove from House Bill 2. And then the last page, page 11 of 11, House Bill 243, relative to the Child Protection Act. That's actually a bill that's currently being deliberated in Senate Children and Family Law. So probably want to wait on that one. So that's the list.
I wouldn't mind you reducing those recommendations down to something on the sheet so that.
Sure. Yep, I can do a
it
separate
makes
sheet.
it easier for the senators.
Yes.
Okay. What else did I schedule for today? That's it. I think that was it.
Would you like me to run through kind of the process, like as we go through?
Sounds great.
All right. It won't be all as smooth as this afternoon. It's just, it'll be similar format. So, but that format that you see, there's two things, and Senator Gray mentioned one of them. So we'll have House Bill 2 amendments drafted by all of us if it is something that needs to be changed in House Bill 2. As you go forward to the agency recaps, what they're going to contain are what the agencies have asked for during their public hearing, as well as any amendments that you're all proposing to those various agencies. We'll have it summarized on a sheet that's called an agency recap sheet with the totals. You will take vote on each of those. Not all of them will have a breakdown sheet like you saw for the DD and the community mental health. Some of them you'll vote on to add the dollar amounts. We'll ensure that they're in the proper class line, proper accounting units, and reflected in House Bill 1. But you'll be going through those and having debate with each agency. I believe how you're starting off with agencies that could be considered easier than others in the grand scheme of things. No agency is easy. There's always going to be issues that will come up as you progress. But to kind of get you through that, look at what the agency is requesting, make a determination here whether or not that falls within priority to fund, and then having a discussion on individual amendments. As you'll take votes on those agency recaps. Anything that you hold, we'll keep in a separate pile so that you can bring them back and discuss again. Anything you want to change. Everything is still in flux until the end, until your final vote. But we're more than willing to sit down with anyone on any of those agencies that are coming up or in the budget to help walk you through kind of what's being the agencies has asked for, as well as what you're all proposing. So feel free if either caucus wants to sit down with any of our members and kind of run through those, just let us know. So that just when you get in here, you kind of know what's coming up. There will obviously be more difficult decisions that are going to tend to wait until the end because of the complication and the large dollar amounts. It's something that Senator Lang is where Ways and Means Committee came out with their revenue estimates based on what they knew as of earlier this week. You're going to make decisions relative to splits in business taxes, VLT revenues, various other policy that's all going to impact each other. I'll be tracking that to make sure that you're balancing, because at the end of the day, you want to ensure that you pass a balanced budget plan over to a full Senate for a vote. So that's what you're going to be seeing. You'll see very similar to this, and we post these on our website for the public as well, so they can go back and get these and go through to see what's approved, and we'll run a tracking sheet as well. So, and we can post all that online just so the public and all of you too can keep track of that.
Senator Bertzel.
Thanks, Mike. Everything you've done has been very useful. So how do you want to be notified? I know Senator Lang brought up a couple days ago. How do you want to be notified what we're looking, the list of amendments that we're looking, so we're not we're not duplicating efforts amongst all of the senators.
Let me start on that.
Yeah, that's,
Okay? Any amendment that's got my name on it can be fully shared with any member of the committee, okay? And if the other senators want to give that authority, when I think some of them have already, that will help the process and such that when LBA gets a request, they can say, oh, somebody's already put a bill in on that. So again, if, you know, but you individually need to do that, okay?
and we can also do that as well if you want us to look at those that are duplicates that we have, because we probably have probably pushing to 100 amendments. Any duplicates, what we'll do is we'll reach out to the sponsors to let you know if it's okay with everyone, if you both have amendments that are identical. And then we can leave it up to you on how you'd like to proceed.
Well,
We'll include you all in the same email.
If there is any senator who does not want theirs shared, you need to make that, you know, request to them. Okay, so.
Yes.
As of right now, I don't see anybody saying, I don't want mine shared. So until you get somebody that says not,
We may have received some that are just still in process that we will not share because the member specifically tells us,
Understood.
just specifically tell us that and we'll make sure.
and I'm
So-
good with that. Senator Lang.
Yeah, so I'm not sure I'm there yet, where you are, with giving it to everybody right now, because I'm still evaluating some of the amendments. We put them in, we're looking at the drafting, look at the implications, so I'm not sure I want that to be so broadly distributed yet.
Then identify those to
I
the
will.
LBA.
I think I gave them my marching orders, what I was willing to, who to share what with.
And again, that's shared with the committee, that's not shared with the public yet.
So do you want the, like I've started a list of the things that I'm looking to try and do amendments on. Do you want the amendments or do you just want the list?
If you, feel free to share us the list. If you have the amendments, share those well if they've been drafted. If we see something on a list that you send us or a request, if it's okay, we can identify that there's already a similar amendment, just so you don't have to do two. We don't have to say who the sponsor is and what it is, but we can say there's a similar amendment already being drafted. So,
Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you.
So, is your plan that we're going to decide on Monday? Which of these provisions to take out because,
That's, I would like to at least have the discussion, and then when we go through that list on Monday, is either we take them out, we retain them, or we make the decision later. And that is pretty consistent with what Mr. Kane's recommendation are.
the reason I
But-
ask is that I've already requested some of these sections to come out, but I don't want LBA to have to do extra work if on Monday we're gonna decide as a committee that things are coming out.
Well, the decision has to be the committee, because anything that's in House Bill 2, it takes a vote of this committee to take it out, okay? If it's in House Bill 2 and we're not gonna play with it, then this, what we did 2 years ago is we took straw man votes. You know, raise your hand, okay? But again, if it's in one or it's in two, there has to be a vote to take it out or to change it. Don't have an option.
any direction you give us on Monday, we'll make sure that there's a corresponding amendment for that, just so there's a track. So in the event that there's one they decide and you already have an amendment to do it, we'll eventually present those amendments to you to all take a vote on it, just to delete that section. This will give us more direction on what to do on those. So,
And to go a little further, it could be that we do that as a committee amendment, okay? And then it's all collected up on one sheet, makes it easier. You've got less to deal with. Do it as a committee amendment, pass the committee amendment saying we're gonna remove these. Now remember, we can amend, okay? So if you make a decision once and you make it twice, and if you're gonna go for the third time and make another change, but what's gonna happen is I think it's June the 2nd, okay, we're gonna vote all those little amendments out. And then we're gonna come back June the 3rd, and OLS is gonna be working all night to, you know, put those all together into one amendment that is the amendment for HB2 and HB1.
Yes. And you'll have amendments, like as you go through the agencies, we'll be checking them off. We'll be keeping track of all the amendments you're adopting. Hopefully by June 2nd, it's some cleanup. Most of your work's going to be completed in the next 3 weeks. We'll make sure that you see anything. We usually, in OLS, having a quick turnaround time to put House Bill 2 together, which is pretty complicated. What we tend to do, just so you all know, is as you're adopting amendments in the committee, we're stringing it together behind the scenes and then sharing them. Once we're 80% close, we give them kind of a head start, even knowing some might change, just so they can get a start. Because they do, this is a very quick turnaround for them to get something back, but we'll make sure we start it as early as we can. So,
And the other thing to keep an eye on is the surplus statement. Okay? Because that's going to be your pluses and minuses. The Ways and Means estimates don't contain savings or expenditures that are already passed. Okay? So that surplus statement, I know that supposedly I'm going to get $80 million somewhere, you know, and they're also still working with the DRA about some of those other things. And, you know, so that surplus statement is going to be your Bible as to whether or not, you know, you have to take things out. There are a lot of things that the House did in those budgets. And I've asked LBA to start looking at that. I called it a different name, but things that the Senate may not concur with, okay? List. And there may be, you know, a few $1 million that we're going to want, the low budget items, et cetera, that we're going to want to go make changes to what the House did. Not a great example, but when DRA was in here, they said they took out inspectors that they send out to go retrieve money. All right, we need to put those back in, but with a provision that they need to bring in revenue in addition to what, so to pay for those positions. So things like that, you know, that the House did that don't really save us money, we need to look at those. We need to look at all of those little things at least once through to make sure that we don't. I mean, they probably eliminated positions in there that I haven't really discovered yet, okay? Some of them make sense, some of them don't. So we need to know what they did, the differences between what the governor did and what the House did, and make sure that we agree with them and either take action or not as you choose.
and I'll have, it won't be as detailed as the surplus, it will be kind of a budget tracker sheet though. As you're making decisions, I'll be keeping track of all that. Don't panic, you're gonna have some red, some black, depending on the decisions that have actually gone through, but a lot of you have plans on how to deal with that as it comes up, but it at least gives you kind of a sense on where you are and how you're proceeding through that budget process.
I've described the three things that we did at the beginning of this meeting as big rocks, okay? And of the money Ways and Means came up with, it takes more than half of what the additional money was. Absolutely.
So again, looking at, in its statement of a surplus statement, Ways and Means revenue estimates were $228 million higher than the House. So that was kind of our starting bank account. And we just used up $121 million today of that. There'll be some adds because, again, in HB2, which Ways and Means doesn't consider, the slot bill is a great example, that has a revenue bump of about $80 million from our calculations. So once we get to that provision, we'll be able to add to that $228 million, $80 million, and then subtract out the items we've already done.
Another thing I want you guys to take note of, okay, the amount of money that is coming out of the rainy day fund. And if you want your bond rating to stay a plus plus, which is what it is, then you need the plan to replace as much of that money as you can. The House took $147 million out of the rainy day fund in their plan and only restored about $100 million in that.
About 85 after the floor votes, yep.
So, again, that's another thing we have to consider. And certainly, you know, one of the things I keep on bringing up is the YDC claim fund, okay? That I have not found money for that. There's a couple of ideas that are floating around right now. I told the governor's office, if we don't find money, that you can get prepared for it, is that at the end of the day, is that the money that she has asked for Group 2 retirement, I'm going to make a motion to move that into the YDC claims fund. That won't happen until we get to the end if we don't find other money. But I'm not hiding that. I'm bringing that right out. And I do know that that's against one of the governor's proposals, but I think it's a thing that has to happen. So for what it's worth, you know, people will be able to politic me and whatever between now and then, but it's where I am.
And for 25, sorry, Senator, just for 25, you can go first. I don't have to go. Oh, okay. I just wanted to say for 25, when Senator Gray's mentioning how much the House took out and put back in, based on the revenues and how they split for 25, based on what we know with any settlements, you're probably looking at about 100 right now. If lapses don't change, revenues don't change, and there's no additional appropriations that pass through statute, about $125 million draw. So as you're considering what happens in 27, how much of that 125 would the committee be comfortable with putting back in? That's just something to keep in your mind. But I did just want to give you kind of size of what we're talking about as of today, and that's going to change. But
Senator.
Thank you. Should we be looking only at the general funds revenues that Ways and Means came up with, or the total general and education funds, because we have the ability to change the splits a little?
If I may.
Senator.
So again, it's definitely something I've been working with Mike on, is the idea, remember, just because we gave you 221 million, that's not 221 million of general fund dollars. That's total split between the Education Trust Fund and the general fund. Mike and I were talking about the idea right now, the revenue splits under current law are 41% and 59%. And based on the rough numbers we did, depending what else we do, we're going to leave surplus money over in the Education Trust Fund. And so I'm considering looking at how we're going to do those revenue splits to push some more money into the general fund and not leave such a large surplus sitting in the Education Trust Fund at the end of the year while we're struggling to pay for some services under the general fund. So I'm going to be looking at those revenue splits and seeing what we're doing. We need to leave some surplus in the Education Trust Fund because of unintended expenses that might come up, but I'm going to be looking at kind of pare that down as much as we can.
definitely, going on Senator Lang, that was definitely one of the final decisions that House Finance made, because they were in a similar position. Your split revenues or your combined ETF and GTF general fund, they looked at kind of the same. At the same time, you'll be monitoring kind of ETF, making sure there's a balance in there. But in the end, one of the last decisions the House made was, how did they get to 70-30? It's because after they made all their decisions and decided what do they need to fund all their priorities. So I would understand what the whole is on the general and education trust fund, but the key is how much surplus is estimated in the education trust fund to allow that transfer, because that's going to play into it, because your VLT revenues, what those estimates are, where you're going to estimate an adequacy, and all those other fund, and how you're going to fund those. But we'll monitor both. We'll put them side by side on any sheet we give you, but still know that they're interchangeable if the committee decides that. So.
Any final nickels? I have a motion to come out of the executive session. So moved. We have a motion and a second to come out of the executive session. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Our business of the day being complete, we are adjourned.
I might actually get home at a decent hour today.
I hope so.